All right. So, this interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. The veteran's name is Charley Hill. He was born in Anderson, South Carolina. He served in the Navy from 1995 to 2015. He achieved the rank of E5. We're recording this on 16 March 2016. I am Emily Willis from Clemson University, and I'm conducting this interview. There is no relation. So, Charley, tell me about where you were born and when and how you grew up.
Well, I was born and raised in Anderson, South Carolina. My parents were textile workers. At that time, that was the only industry pretty much in this particular area. And since then, it has dried up and went overseas. But my dad was in the Navy. My father was in the Army in World War I. And then my great-grandfather was a veteran of the Civil War who volunteered in Lounsville, South Carolina under McCullough's Rifles. So there's a rich history in our family with military. And recently I just returned from Gettysburg visiting where he wounded and was wounded 3 times while he served in that capacity. And my father was a disabled veteran. He was gassed with mustard gas in World War I and spent a lot of time in the Johnson City, Tennessee VA hospital recovering from that. And my father participated in the cleanup duties of Japan after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I come from a rich heritage of military service, and that was one of the reasons I decided to join, because my siblings did not choose to do military service. So I wanted to carry on that legacy, and so anyway, got married, had 2 children, Samuel Hill and Jennifer Hill, and my son joined the Air Force Reserves and is still participating in that capacity. So the legacy has continued on with our service to the country.
Okay, and what branch of the military did you serve?
I was in the U.S. Navy. Excuse me.
Why did you choose the Navy over the other services?
I always wanted to travel, and so the Navy had the best option to do traveling, and so I got to travel all over the world and see a lot of places and things that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own.
Okay, what happened when you departed for training camp, and what was it like during your early days of training?
The training was very regimental and of course structured, and but I enjoyed it. I knew there was a reason. There was a reason that we had to go through this, and I enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed my total military career.
Did you receive any specialized training?
I did. I was in naval security. I started out in the Supply Corps, and then I transferred over, did a lateral movement into naval security. And so I was trained basically for base operations security, and toward the end, of course, after 9/11, was a lot of extensive training for anti-terrorism training and that sort of thing.
How did you adapt to military life? Was it a drastic change for you, or?
It was not. I grew up, like I said, in a military family, so that structure came early on, and so I pretty much adapted flawlessly to that, to the regimented rigors of of military life.
Okay, where did you serve?
Stateside, I was in Norfolk, Virginia, New Orleans, Louisiana. I was in Saratoga Springs, New York. I was in Boston, Massachusetts. I did a short stint aboard the USS Constitution, which is a relic ship that's anchored in the Boston Harbor, and then several other places for short periods of time in the United States. Then I was in Rota, Spain. I was in Yokosuka, Japan. I was also in Hawaii, and I was in London, England, on assignment. So there were a lot of international and domestic travel opportunities that I took advantage of.
What are some memories you have of your overseas experiences?
The cultural differences were quite a shock. I remember my first time overseas was in Rota, Spain, and the types of food, the activities that the local people participated in were different than what I was used to in the South. So I would say the cultural differences was something to get used to, as well as in Japan. A lot of cultural differences over there, but I was treated nice in all the places I visited.
Did you have any combat experiences?
Not while I was on active duty. I did after my service in the Navy. I went to Iraq for 6 years as a private security contractor, and of course I participated in several different capacities in the combat environment.
What were your duties in your overseas assignments, like Kosovo and Japan and stuff? If it wasn't like a combat thing, what did you do?
Mostly it was base security, some form of security, and I forgot to mention I was in Italy on numerous occasions, both in mainland, and then I was on the island of Sicily at Sigonella Naval Base. So it was mostly in a security capacity.
So when you got out and went to be a security contractor, that was just kind of the next thing in line, kind of a natural progression.
Right. It was
A similar job.
it was something I was accustomed to and knew how to do. So it was a seamless transition into that capacity.
Okay. What kinds of friendships and camaraderie did you form while serving?
It was that was one of the highlights of my military career is the camaraderie, the friendships. I still stay in touch with people that I started out in the Navy with, and recently, as last year, I went to visit an old Navy friend in Tyler, Texas, that became good friends, and we have stayed in contact, but I hadn't seen him in 20 years, and we had stayed in contact through phone or emails, and now with the social media through Facebook as well.
So when you were in the military, all that wasn't relevant. So how did you stay in touch with friends and family from all the places you traveled?
Just by phone calls, and it's, of course, now it's much easier with social media, but at that time it was a landline phone into your house. We didn't even have cell phones back then, so a lot of technology has taken place since that time.
What did you do for recreation or when you were off duty? How'd you spend your free time?
Well, it depended on where we were at. if we were in the beach areas, like in Rota, Spain, we spent a lot of time on the beach, surfing. In Hawaii, it was a lot of outdoor activities that we participated in. Surfing, hiking, and then in Italy, a lot of sightseeing to places that was known of, like during school from textbooks and history books, and we were able to visit those places like the Vatican and different World War II sites that we only read about in the history books, and being there in those locations, we were able to visit those firsthand. And I was able to visit the D-Day invasion site over in France on one of my excursions. That was I got to go to some places my grandfather fought in. He was in a combat capacity in France. That's where he got sprayed with the mustard gas. And then when I was in Japan, I got to visit some of the places my father had visited while he was there. So that was pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. So whenever your experiences as a contractor, how do they compare to your experiences on active duty?
Very similar. Of course, all the guys that I did contract work with were prior military, so we shared a commonality there, and we understood the same language and understood the same type of needs and restrictions, and knew how to give each other space and without being confrontational, and we understood the need for me time. So that was it was just transition from one. We were not wearing uniforms, so but we understood what it was like, and being around the same kind of people.
Okay. What experiences did you have as a contractor overseas as compared to the ones that you had in service?
Well, the structured environment was very similar, and of course, as contractors, we worked around the military. So that was I guess in some instances, was a seamless transition, and because we, as contractors, we understood the same language the military was speaking, and the acronyms, and of course, the military is full of acronyms, and so we understood that, and there was a commonality, even though as a private security contractor, there was a commonality between us and the military.
Did you have more freedom as a contractor in what you did than when you were active duty, or?
Maybe in some instances, but the lifestyle was very similar as being in the military.
And where did you serve as a contractor?
I was initially I was in Baghdad, but as a team we moved throughout the country of Iraq. We were in Al-Taqaddum, Al-Asad, we were in Mosul, Talafar, Qusr, Fallujah, in Badoush, which was in the northern region, Bakuba, which was in the eastern region of Iraq, over near the Iranian border. So I was able to travel extensively through the country of Iraq and see a lot of really interesting sites.
And you mentioned you were in Operation Desert Fox?
Yeah.
And that was where?
That was in 1996, and it was in a support element, and it was some reflux, if you would, from the Desert Storm days and some additional problems they had in the Middle East, and so I was in a support element for that.
Did that compare to being in Iraq? Were you more prepared to go to Iraq?
Well, I mean,
because of that?
At that time as a support element, we didn't serve in the Middle East. We were in an international, in an undisclosed location. We were in international, but we were not in the Middle East at that time.
Okay. Just providing support from afar.
Right.
Like if you were needed. Okay. So when did you return home? When did you come back and get out of the military?
I ETS'd off of active duty in 2003, and then I went right back into a reserve component until 2006, and I maintained a individual ready reserve status to 2015, but in 2004 I went to Iraq and stayed there till 2010.
While you were in a reserve unit?
While I was in IRR, which is
Inactive.
in individual ready reserve.
Okay. And how were you received by your family and friends? Was it hard to reintegrate back into the community after your service?
The service wasn't so bad, but coming back from Iraq was very different, and it was a hard transition to coming from a war zone for 6 years, coming back into normal civilization.
How long did it take you to readjust to civilian life, or have you?
I would say that I still have some reflux from being over in Iraq, and I got diagnosed with PTSD and had some injuries while I was over there, non-life threatening, just some shoulder and knee injuries, and so I wouldn't say I had fully adjusted back into civilization. But when I came back, I wanted to finish my degree, so I enrolled at Tri-County Tech for a couple semesters, and then sufficed the requirement for Clemson, and I transitioned into Clemson into the management degree program at Clemson University and graduated in August of 2013.
Do you still have a strong veteran community around you, or do you just remain in contact with friends that are at a distance, or?
Both. One of the best, I guess, the best communities that I've been affiliated with is the Clemson Student Veterans Association, and I still maintain a strong connection with that community and participate in activities with that organization. But I still maintain relationships from early days on with the Navy, with friends, and again through social media and through phone contact.
Do you think that having a veteran organization around you helps with the readjustment back into civilian life?
Absolutely, absolutely. For example, just today, a couple of the guys from the Veterans Organization came over and we did some activities, hung out, talked about what we did, and while we were overseas and while we were in the military, and it's again talking the same language and sharing the same experiences provides a common ground that when you have problems or in conversation, you can relate to those type of people that other people who have a non-military background really don't understand.
How did being in the military and then being in Iraq affect your life? How did those experiences affect your life?
Well, it affected a lot. Being gone for long periods of time, provided a strain on the family, and I was married initially, and then I succumbed to the statistical divorce for military personnel. So it was stressful at times.
What are some life lessons you learned from your time in military service and as a contractor?
Wow. Well, I think the regimental activities that you come accustomed to about keeping, your quarters clean, become regimented in schedules, and one thing that I've learned is being on time for dates, dates and times, and being punctual. I think those types of things, while I was in the military, helped me in everyday life, and those are things that I think employers want to see. Those types of things are values that people appreciate, and that those in a non-military life don't necessarily understand that's important to offer in a relationship or into a job environment.
Do you think that your military experience helped you get through college?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My last semester at Clemson, I took 21 hours in my schedule, and I think if it had not been for being in environments that were pressure related, I don't think I would have made it. I don't really think that I would have been a success in the academic world.
How has your military service and work as a contractor impacted your feelings about war and the military now?
I think war is a necessary evil, and recently with the global war on terrorism, I think, and with the social media and how the world is becoming so much smaller than it used to be, so to speak, that we're in tune with what's going on around the world, and we understand that the terrorism is unwanted in the United States, and that affects anything that affects our freedom and democracy is an unwanted variable. So, yeah, I see it. It has affected me a lot.
Would you change anything about your service or your work? Do you have any regrets about it, or would you do the same thing over again if you were able to?
I would really like to go back and do it again. I value my military experience, and as I said earlier, I joined the Navy to travel, and I got to see a lot of places that I would not have been able to see on my own. So, and I was able to share those experiences a lot of times with my family. One of the places I was stationed at was in Hawaii, and I was able to take my family over there and let them experience that. So it was, I really enjoyed my military career and what I was able to do to show my country that I appreciate living in the United States, and I think it's if you can do it and it's physically you're physically capable of doing it, I think everybody should volunteer to serve their country.
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will see this interview?
Oh, wow. I think, that's kind of a hard question as a legacy, I guess you might say, to put in the time capsule. I love my country, and I'm glad I was able to offer a small portion of what I could do to promote democracy and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Is there anything else you would like to add to this interview for 5 more minutes?
I can't think of anything, but
Then tell me some stories.
uh,
Or what have you done since you got out of all your contract work and out of the military? Did you pick up any hobbies or anything in the service or during that time that you continue to do? Or
I continue to exercise on a semi-regular basis, but I find myself feeling guilty not being able to participate due to physical limitations. I've had knee surgery, shoulder surgery, back surgery, and I'm getting ready to have another shoulder surgery and neck surgery coming up. So I can't participate physically like I used to,
but you still travel.
I really enjoy traveling. That's that keeps me going. I'm now planning a trip to New Zealand. I've never been to that area.
Are you really?
And so I've met some friends from New Zealand, and I want to go see the place. And so that's on the agenda.
Now, when you worked overseas, did you meet people from all these places, and that's who you reconnect with, or?
Both on the military level and the contracting level. So I've got friends all over the world. So. And I like staying in contact with some of those people. Not all of them, but the Middle East is kind of like a blur and a nightmare at times for obvious reasons. So, but I've met people from New Zealand, and I like to play guitar, and that's
Did you pick that up in the military?
I did. So I enjoy the travel. And I have a great companion, a West Highland Terrier, and she stays with me and goes with me and travels with me. And and one of the trips I went on was I did a study abroad with Clemson, with the management department, and I went to China for 6 weeks. And I was able to visit the North Korean border, which I thought was pretty neat. I had a cousin who was a POW near the location I went to. It was right across the Yalu River from Dandong, China. And so it was a neat trip. So far I've been to 49 different foreign countries. I've been to every state in the United States except 4. So I'd like to at least visit one more country and round it off to 50, and then I would like to finish up with all the United States. That's what I'd like to do. It's a goal.
Have you been to a country on every continent except Antarctica, I guess? Have you been to Australia?
Never have been to Australia, so if I get to New Zealand, Australia would be on the list to visit while I'm there.
Have you been to Africa?
I have been to Africa twice. I was when I was in Rota, Spain, we visited Morocco, and then I participated in Operation Bright Star in year 2000, and so that was in Egypt. So I got to go to Africa twice. I would love to go to South Africa and further down in that region. I'd like to visit there sometime. I've never been to South America. I've been to Central America in Panama. So those are some places I'd like to visit, but I really want to go to New Zealand and visit there. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add to this interview?
I can't think of anything. I appreciate my children supporting me in what I did. Samuel and Jennifer, and that's about it.
That's about it. Well, thank you for letting me interview for this project. I really appreciate it. And that's